Hey, and welcome to the Ambitious Bookkeeper Podcast. I'm Serena Shoup, CPA, a mom of three, and I've been running a virtual bookkeeping business from my home since 2017. You are in the right place if you are a bookkeeper, accountant, or an accounting student, and you believe and know in your heart that your purpose is bigger than sitting in a cubicle. If you're ready to learn some actionable tips and strategies for starting and growing your accounting business, then I hope you stick around. Welcome to the Ambitious Bookkeeper Podcast. Today I am interviewing Katy Murray from Gingerbiz, the podcast, and actually we both connected on Threads, which has been a fun thing lately. So welcome, Katy. How are you?
Thank you so much. Yeah, Threads has been a lot of fun.
I signed up for Threads when it first came out, but I was like, I can't right now. There's just too much. And so I just left it. And then maybe not even a month ago, I got back on there and I started just observing. And the algorithm is like amazing right now and feeds you the things that you actually want to see. And there's no ads and stuff. So yeah, I just started seeing like really amazing posts from people I had never seen or heard of, especially around podcasting. I guess somehow I got into the podcast Threads section. And there's so many connections that have happened from that, of having people on my podcast and going on other people's podcasts, that it's just like, it's kind of magic right now. So this is really exciting.
Yeah, I completely agree. I was the same way. As like I signed up but didn't utilize it because it was just too much. And now I'm like, this is fun. I just check in when I want to and meet people like you. So it's awesome.
Yeah. So I think you had posted on Threads that you were wanting to go out on other people's podcasts and interview. And so I was like, oh, I like her vibe. And like, I listened to your podcast and it just worked out. So give everyone a background of like who you are and what you do and how you help people. And then we'll jump into our conversation, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. So first and foremost, I'm like a wife and a mother. I have a toddler. And that is just its own thing. If you have children, you get it, because kids take up a lot of our time. But I'm also very, very business driven. And so I work full time. I'm the head of human resources in a private organization where we have about 600 employees and about 7,000 members in total. And so that's kind of what I do by day. And I absolutely love my career. And I'm not going anywhere. But I also love my podcast, which is all about entrepreneurs and career-minded people and just giving lots of tangible tips and tricks for anyone who's wanting to get into kind of the entrepreneur world or start their own business. I started out as a professional photographer and I was featured in over 30 different publications, including People, Enterprise, a lot of really cool names that featured my images. And that's when I realized that it wasn't necessarily photography that I loved. It was the analytics of running a business and kind of learning how to make the sales and how to, close in on the profit margin and make those things profitable while also doing something that I love. And so that's the quick version of my background. So I've been an entrepreneur for 12 or 14 years now with that business. And then as I had my toddler, I kind of decided to step a little bit away from photography because I do work full time and my career has really grown so much that I'm oftentimes staying a little bit later and stuff. And so I didn't want to be away on the weekends. And then we launched Katy and Co, which is Katy and Company. It's me, my husband, and we have a couple team members who help us. And we do virtual assisting, mostly social media management and Pinterest management, and just really helping with the marketing side of things for other businesses. Yeah, so that's a little bit about me. I could go on and on because there's a lot in there, but that's the quick version, the cliff notes, if you will.
That is so awesome. That's like so many different things. And so I can tell like you're an idea person. But that you also execute on those ideas. So I was really excited to have you on the podcast to talk about various things. Originally, I was like, oh yeah, HR. Like I would love to have someone talk about HR on the podcast. And then it turns out that you do all these other things that are very applicable. A lot of my listeners, a lot of us are moms. And a lot of us still have careers. A lot of the people listening are working a full-time job and maybe trying to start a side hustle doing bookkeeping or accounting work. And so I felt like it would be really valuable to have you on and have a conversation about all of these things and like how you balance it and how you like choose which ideas to pursue and which ones not to pursue and things like that. So I don't know where you want to dive in because I have so many questions.
Well, you can either kick it off with questions. One thing that I will say is that it's wild being, I think, a mom specifically, but just anybody, and being a high achiever, because that's something that, like, I'm prior military. I'm very, very proud of just everything that I've ever done, and I'm a high achiever, and sometimes I just have to slow down. So I think that's a little bit what we can dive into today is just how to slow down when you do want to wear these multiple hats and you're not ready to hang any of them up because you love what you're doing on certain levels. Or like you said, some of, your listenership might be wanting to kickstart their business and start to really maybe grow into that so they can step away from maybe their corporate jobs. And I think that it's important to know where you have to pump the brakes in order to save up so you have that turbo later, if you will. And it's so important. And that's coming from a recovering, if you will, perfectionist and a high achiever. And I've been told by many, like, you got to take off your ambitious glasses and see the world like we do. And I was like, nah, I don't. And and we can kind of like dive into that even because there's just so much around that of what you can do and what you can press pause on and where you need to push the turbo button and what you need to do to really get the most out of everything.
Yeah, I think we should definitely start there, given that this is the Ambitious Bookkeeper podcast. Mm-hmm. And by the time this episode airs, I will have already released an episode where I talk about what it means to be ambitious and like how the brand has developed and stuff. But one of the things that you said was like kind of embracing that, like, or at least this is the way that I interpret it, right? Like being able to embrace the fact that you are a high achiever and ambitious, but also knowing when to like live in the season that you're in or pump the brakes in certain areas. And also like, I don't know, I don't really identify as like a girl boss. Like there's those memes that go around that are like, oops, I girl bossed too hard and now I'm like super successful. And it's like, I don't hustle, but I am a high achiever. So like, do you want to jam on that? Because I feel like you're pretty similar. Like you don't come off as like a hustler, like you're going off and doing all these things 24/7, but you are achieving a lot in the time that you are working. So how do you like, I don't know if you want to.
No, we are totally vibing.
Unpack that.
I love that because like this is something that I'm super passionate about. And so slowing down when you're a high achiever to be successful is so important. And one of the first points that I wanted to talk about, which you segued perfectly, is the cult of being busy. Like I am not a hustler. I have moments of hustle, but the cult of being busy, like I don't believe in being busy. I want to be productive. So I'm not trying to be busy and just like boom, 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 nailing everything out and just doing all these crazy things and just constantly on the go. I am lazy. Like I am the person who loves to curl up on the couch and like watch a movie or I take naps. Like I'm not, I don't identify either as like a girl boss. I definitely love my downtime. I love to unplug. I love to let my brain just not be. And so I think getting around kind of that hustle culture and that cult of being busy, that's such a dilemma. And I think probably a lot of your listeners can resonate with this is like, well, you're working full time and you're trying to build a side hustle and so like you don't have time to breathe. But that's where intentionality comes in. And that's why it's so important to slow down because you have to think about where you want to put your time and how you basically like want to manage that so that you are growing in the right direction versus just throwing everything at the wall and hoping something sticks.
Yeah. Yeah. The intentionality piece is so key. And I think that's where people look at someone that's really ambitious and a high achiever and they think that we're working all the time, but we're not. We're just really intentional during the times that we're working. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, just like with that, I've gotten caught up in the hustle. I've gotten, even like in my day job, I'll be like, oh my gosh, I have so much to get done today. Where do I even start? And then I just start like grasping at straws. And so one of the benefits to slowing down is to find that enhanced clarity and focus to say, okay, I have like an overwhelming day ahead of me. And I'll use today as an example. You thankfully were very flexible with the scheduling of this, but I was at work all day. My husband, decided to point out that I had a 10-hour workday, and then I went into 6 hours of podcasting. So
oh my gosh,
you're at the end of that, which is beautiful for me because I get to go home and go to bed after this. But really slowing down for that enhanced clarity and focus to say, hey, what do I need to get done at work today so that I can go into these recordings and just like breathe a little bit and just be intentional in that moment with where I'm at. And so slowing down lets you focus on that. And I tend to realize that when I start to get overwhelmed and I start going to that hustle culture of like, I got to work, I got to do this, saying, whoa, what do I need to accomplish this week or this day or this hour to get me to where I want to be tomorrow? And really focusing on that improved creativity and innovation to build out from that. If you don't give yourself any space and you're stuck in this hustle mindset, you can't be creative. You don't have an idea for your next podcast episode or for your next client consult. Like you just don't have space for that because your brain is so involved, if you will. And so I think that those are kind of two big ones, is slowing down for that enhanced clarity and focus, and then also that improved creativity and innovation. And if you want, I can dive into those a little bit more if that's helpful.
Yeah. Like what are some tactical ways of slowing down so that the listener is like, okay, great, I need to slow down, but like, what does that mean?
Okay, thank you for asking because I am all about tangible takeaways. And so I love that. I would say I have like 8 main tips, and we don't have to get into all of them, but schedule downtime. I have the podcast, and last October, at the time of us recording this, it's August. Last October, I was very intentional with my time. And so I scheduled a whole week where I wouldn't do anything after work. And then I scheduled a whole week where I could do podcast recordings. And I got to the point in October that all of my podcasts, I do a solo episode Tuesdays and a guest episode Thursdays. I recorded and produced and got them all ready through June. So
yeah,
October, 2 episodes a week, October through June, I was able to knock out and be so intentional with what I did, scheduling those guests and getting that done. And still schedule downtime. So the first and main point is look at your calendar and be like, I have a lot of crap to do, but I'm first going to block out certain days. And blocking off regular periods of downtime in your schedule so that you can rest, so you can relax, so you can recharge, so you can just be, whether it's like going for a walk or a quiet evening or reading a book or whatever, do that first because those are non-negotiables. You need to schedule downtime. And then you can start filling in around that, like having a later night, like I'm on the East Coast time, so it's later over here, and being intentional and being prepared and drinking an energy drink so I can stay up a little bit later and get this done. Mind you, because I know that this weekend there's nothing on my schedule because I blocked it off.
Yeah, that's really important. I build things in constantly like that. Like I don't do meetings on Mondays or Fridays. And I honestly try not to even work on Mondays and Fridays. Occasionally there's a season, right? Like we're accountants. So at month end, the first, it's actually usually the like second and third week of the month, I'll work a Monday to help get things out the door in time. But other than that, like those are my personal days for rest and recharge and like my other passion projects.
I love that.
Which we could dive into too, because yeah. So yeah, I'm a huge proponent of like structuring your calendar that way. Like clients don't need access to you every single day. You're not their employee. Now, if you're an employee, that's different. But if you're talking client work or freelance type stuff, you get to decide your schedule. So yeah.
It's funny you say that because I recently brought on a couple new team members at my job, and I was working with the HR assistant. I was like, Fridays are like open, because it got to a point where, bless his heart, he was really trying to help, but he's like, oh, a lot of people came in to see you today, so I put them all on Friday. And I was like, oh my gosh, no, there's a reason that Friday is completely open, and I'm physically here working on Fridays, but I need some headspace to like catch up on my administrative things, or, our HR department handles like the benefit enrollments and like all of those administrative tasks. And I'm like, I can't make sure that I'm putting 250 benefit enrollments in right if I am getting distracted by people always asking questions. So I'm the same way. I try to keep Fridays just like open because I need that space to be able to use my own brain versus letting other people like use it, if that makes sense, because they have to like bounce things off of me and stuff. And it is a lot. Like you did mention like my career versus my clients. But even with my clients, I will, and this is like a little off the cuff, but like I'll answer emails late at night, but I always schedule them for the next day because my clients don't get access to me at 9 p.m. Like that's a non-negotiable. I have to set up boundaries. So even if I happen to have a burst of energy or the stinking energy drink kicks in way late, I will schedule them during normal business hours so that I'm cultivating a relationship with my clients, that they know the culture of my business and that I'm not available and accessible at all times because I'm not a brain surgeon. I don't need to be.
Yeah, I do the same exact thing. One of my team members showed me with an email that she received from someone else. I can't remember what the context was, but she was like, check this out. In her signature, she has like a little blurb that says, I may be answering this email at an odd time, but that doesn't mean that you need to respond at the same time. This is just what time is best for me for working. And I was like, oh, I like that, but I'm still going to schedule things during business hours.
No, I love that. I actually had to do that with my boss today because I sent him like this long list, just like updating him on stuff. And he's like, I'm actually walking out to my car. Like, you must have just missed me. And I was like, bro, you don't got to respond to me. I was just able to get this out now and I'm proud of myself. So like respond when you want. And I don't mean it like catty or anything, but this is my time and this is when I got it done. So when you get it, like when you're around, whatever, I don't care. So I totally get that. And it's important because I don't expect other people to work when I'm working or be off or be on when I'm on or off. It's that's your prerogative. And as long as the service that I need from you or what I'm paying for, I guess, is done, I don't care when it's done.
Yeah, I agree. I'm very results driven, and that's how we operate in my firm as well. The team picks their own hours. We meet once a week all as a team so that we get some FaceTime. But other than that, it's just like make sure that you're just hitting deadlines and ping me in Slack if you get stuck. And I try to make myself available for the team like pretty much all day. But there are times where I'm working at night and so are they. And things line up that way because they're, they have kids too and they're doing things on odd hours as well. So it works out.
I love it when it like comes together like that.
Yeah. So what's one thing you said was scheduling and blocking off time to like rest and have open, empty space. Do you have like another couple that you could throw at us for ideas? Because someone might be like, I know that already. Give me something else.
They might know that, but they need to do it. They got to put it into action.
Yes, here's your reminder.
I think like a couple of them are a little bit no-brainers, like practicing mindfulness and incorporating mindfulness practices into your daily routine. So whether that's like for some people that might be meditation or like prayer or like daily journaling or breath work, those, as silly as they might sound, I do think that they're important to really stay grounded and know yourself. Like for me, talk therapy is my thing. It's my jam. So at my organization, I oftentimes will go into the CFO's office and just unload on him. He is very like-minded. We've done the DISC profile. Are you familiar with DISC at all?
Vaguely.
Okay. So there's like the different quadrants or whatever. And I'm human resources and I am you're friendly, happy-go-lucky, like ready to have a conversation, can be super serious and empathetic. But one thing that surprises everybody is I'm actually a hard C, which is like my dot, I guess, if you will, sits on top of the CFOs. And the CFO is known for being, well, I think that's kind of your audience. Like you guys are analyticals and stuff. And so they're known for being like conscientious and analytical and reserved and precise and private and systematic. And so it's so funny that I sit like right on top of his dot because I should be more in the influencer steadiness because of my role. And so with all that being said, I tend to need some talk therapy, and he relates and understands when I'm like, I don't like drive-bys. I like appointments. I like structure. I don't like when people round up or round down. Like, that's not real. And so I often will go in there. And so for my mindfulness, I realized that going in and talking through an issue or a concern was super beneficial. So I actually have a journal that I keep at my desk at work. And so if I'm struggling that day to like regain my focus, or I'm lacking motivation and I have a long to-do list, my mindfulness is just slowing down and recentering by honestly just like releasing that crap. And so it's just throwing up on the pages and writing those words down. That's a big one for me. Another one would be setting realistic goals. And that's kind of what I do in my journaling too. I get out whatever's annoying me or whatever thought I have or whatever feelings it is. And then I refocus with setting realistic goals. So instead of constantly chasing after bigger and better and more, I like to take the time to sit down and set realistic, meaningful goals that align with my values and my priorities. Again, whether that's in work or in business, just focusing on the quality over the quantity, and then giving myself permission to just really pursue those goals with passion.
I love that. I love that so much because, for one, like, sometimes we do need to, well, we kind of already talked about this, but like reel it in. Like, we can have really big goals, but sometimes it's not the right season to chase after them. And so you do have to like remind yourself about what your real values are in this season of life or whatever, right? I have to do that constantly. Like, I have to remind myself, like, my kids are still small, but they're not going to be small forever. So I can chase that other goal later.
Oh man, that hits me. Cause like, exactly. And I've had to remind myself of that. Like, my daughter's 4 and I wasn't really, I mean, like, I enjoyed her as a baby, but like growing up, I always thought babies were my thing, but I realized like, that's not the age that I relate with the most. And my daughter is at a stage now where she can communicate and like, she's sassy and she's fun. And I realized like, I want to soak that up so much. Like the other day she got out of bed and I was like, what the heck? Why are you so tall? Like, what happened to you? Why are you growing so much? And I've been setting a lot of my like goals and passions a little bit to the side because I know that they'll still be there. I can still pursue business. I can still become a multimillionaire 5 years from now, but I can't snuggle my 4-year-old 5 years from now. And so really putting that in perspective is so helpful. And even just you saying it is like, you're right. You're right.
I say it out loud because I have to constantly remind myself too. And it's, you know, it's tricky, especially if your business is the main source of income for your household, like mine is. So it's like to a certain point, I do have to do certain things, but I don't have to grow it as much as I want to grow it right now.
Yeah. There'll be time to scale and, you know, multiply. But as long as there's food on the table and things are getting done today, that's okay.
I think that's more of a struggle for the high achievers that are like, I know I'm capable, especially when you know, like, you know, the sky is the limit and you know you're capable of so much. When you get to a certain point and you've had results, you're like, oh, I could just turn up this dial and like I could do this. But now it's like going back to that intentionality thing. Like today I just had the realization of, right now I have a team that posts on social media to like repurpose the podcast and all that kind of stuff. But all of the other social media content, like stories and reels, I do those myself. And they're fun sometimes. Like I do find enjoyment in it. And so as long as I enjoy it, I'm going to keep doing it. But sometimes I'm like, I don't know if like that's actually the best use of my time. But like I do still want to grow. So the other option is to use ads. And I had this realization. I was like, I could probably completely stop posting organic reels and stories on Instagram and just probably switch over to ads and then just have someone on the team manage ads and get better results for growth. So it's like things like that you have to consider. I'm like, okay, this is a time suck. Even though it's fun, it's not really like adding that much value in the end? I don't know. It's interesting to like to think through those things. Obviously, I have not completed the whole like thought process around it, but it was like a little realization that I had today.
I think I'm at a similar place and I can relate to that because I too am like, I don't actually find a lot of joy in it. And so I find in like posting reels and stuff. However, I told myself like a week or two ago, so I'm in the same timeline as you, that I was like, I don't have to post to social media. Like, I do really want the podcast to gain traction and the affiliate links and like all that kind of like indirect money coming in those other avenues. But I also don't want to feel like it's another job to manage social media when like that's not my sole income or that's not where my sole referrals come from. And so I tried to give myself a little bit of space. That's actually why I'm on Threads, because I was like, I don't want this to be picture perfect. I just want to have fun. And I just want to talk to people and whatever. And it's funny because, again, by slowing down and realizing that, I have now posted more reels that just feel fun than I was when I felt the pressure of it. And actually, I was standing in the kitchen yesterday and I can like visualize where I was in that moment. That I was like, yeah, maybe I should just go the paid ads route and just be done versus all this extra work to like make this happen. And honestly, like what you're saying too kind of branches into like my next tip that I would give is like embracing imperfection. Like, they don't have to be perfect reels or the perfect post or the perfect recording. Like, it's okay to let go of the need to be perfect and just embrace the beauty of whatever it is you're doing and that imperfection, because it's just too much sometimes. And like you said, like we want to be with our kids, or we don't need to post to social in this moment, and it's going to be there. Like you said when we started, like Threads is just another avenue that we have to like show up on to some degree, and that'll always be there. Like, and sometimes, let's be honest, the algorithm is like, whoa, this girl ghosted me for months and now she's back. Let me put her in front of everybody. And it works in our favor. So it really just depends. But I think leaning into that imperfection and just celebrating your progress and growth along the way, and just remember that, you know, success is linear. It's a journey. It's not the end result. We're just going to keep working for it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I've done a lot of thinking and redefining too of like what success is. And it's like different iterations throughout business as well. Like, I don't know, even though the financial success is kind of important, like I said, when it's about putting food on the table, I value more having time. And so it's interesting how things shift. I'm like, I just want more time back in my day. So what can I cut that isn't driving I was about to blend like two metaphors, driving the needle, moving the needle forward. I always mess those up. But you know what I'm saying? Like, that's part of this whole conversation, I guess, is kind of also redefining what exactly your values and your idea of success is. The success is more money, then do the things that are going to bring in more money. If your success is more time with your family, then do the things that are going to give you more time with your family. So it could be hiring someone or completely dropping something from your to-do list, like social media. If it's not really like for your example, if it's not the main driver of referrals and it's just something that's fun, it's not really a necessity.
Yeah, not at all. And I think that sometimes we get caught up in whatever's trendy. And I mean, I know I've fallen victim to this before. I've like seen a great business or whatever, and then seen they have like not very many followers or not very much engagement on Instagram. And I'm like, who am I to judge that? Like, I don't even have very many followers on Instagram. That's not the driving force for me. Like, LinkedIn is where I'm at. And that's easy for me because I can schedule those and they go live and they hit the same as if they weren't scheduled, which is great. And so it just really depends on, where you're at in life and what makes the most sense to you in that moment and what's sustainable for that chapter almost.
Yeah.
Because it could change, it could pivot, it could move, and that's okay, you know?
Yeah. I was in a time in my business like last, I don't know, last year sometime where I was trying to be in all the places. And it's funny because I coach my bookkeepers of like, choose one platform and just hang out there. Yes, you're potentially missing out on customers that aren't on the platform that you're on, but choose the one that you enjoy the most and be on that and just focus all your efforts there, especially when you're just starting out. And since I've been in business now for like 7 years, I felt like it was time for me to actually like be in all the places because we post in all of them with the scheduler. So I was like, let me go and engage in all these places. And so I was doing LinkedIn, and I don't really engage in Facebook, but I do run Facebook groups. So I do have to show up in those. And then I like being on Instagram. So I'm on that all the time. And then like, I just got to this point where like midway through the year last year, I was just axing things off of my plate that just really weren't driving things forward. And I haven't utilized LinkedIn like a lot of people have to like get clients and all that kind of stuff. I know that the opportunity exists there, but I wasn't getting any traction, probably because I wasn't really into it. And so that was one of the things that I completely dropped. I didn't even check my LinkedIn for over 6 months until like recently. And I got back on there and was like, yep, didn't miss a thing.
That's funny. Yeah, I dropped the Katy and Co Instagram and just haven't done anything with it. And I'm like, cool, that's a bad look, but like, meh, it is what it is. Because sometimes you just like spread yourself too thin. And like, then the next point that I was going to make was like limiting screen time. And your interaction with the different platforms is similar to like mine with screen time. As I got to a point where like, I'm usually really intentional with my screen time. And I will say that my husband kind of screwed me up on it because we switched over from using like a texting app to using the Messenger app for all of our communications. And so if your listeners or you tune into like any of my episodes, I talk a lot about like time management and like boundaries and all these things. And so I have apps all blocked on my phone until 9:30 every morning so that I wasn't like distracted when I was getting ready and I could have intentional time before the day. But then I realized like a couple days after we had switched into using Messenger, I was like, my husband didn't tell me when he got to work, or like he hasn't reached out to me at all today. And we're pretty connected. Like, I mean, obviously there's times when I'm like, well, I'm recording for the next couple of hours or whatever, and he knows he's not going to hear from me. But generally speaking, we'll check in with each other because we're both early risers. So we usually get to work pretty early, like 7:30. And so like by 9:30, I haven't heard from him. I'm like, what's going on? And I realized it's because I have all those apps blocked on my phone. The only one that wasn't was text messaging. And so I realized I was like, oh, well, that doesn't make sense. So I started turning off my screen limits, I guess, if you will. And so it's like called focus mode. I even hate to admit it. But like the boundaries around my use of technology now have completely like been screwed up because I turned it off. And so now like I find myself aimlessly scrolling more and stuff like that. So for me, that was a huge time suck. And so I realized going back to designating specific times to when I can like be on my phone or be on social media and just implementing like almost a digital detox day or certain times to recharge gave me so much time back. And I'm sure like you with LinkedIn, by being like, nope, I'm off of it for 6 months, you can recalibrate that time to something else.
Yeah, which I totally did. I recalibrated that to like Instagram.
Hey, it works.
I reallocated. But yeah, it's just sometimes it just feels like a lot of noise. But yeah, it is really important to do a reset every so often because things start to creep in. It's like scope creep with clients, like your social media usage creeps back up. One thing I really like about Threads, and maybe Instagram has the same feature and I just need to turn it on, but I was playing around with the Threads settings, just like poking around one day, and it was like, oh, you can set like a screen limit on it. And so I have it to where after 15 minutes, or maybe it's 10 straight minutes of being on Threads, this little thing pops up and like it blanks out the screen. It's like, you've been on Threads for so long. Do you want to like take some downtime or like ignore? And so usually I just close the app at that point. I'm like, all right, my time's up.
Hey, that's good self-discipline because I'm like the type that's like, whoa. I mean, I told you to tell me this, but why are you telling me this? Leave me alone.
Yeah, sometimes I do ignore it, but lately I'm like, I know I've slipped into the too much screen time. So I'm going to allow that boundary because it is really easy to go down the rabbit hole on Threads.
Oh man, it totally is, especially with like, I mean, look at this. Like, this is how we met. So I'm like, look at this. Threads is amazing. Like, let me stay on it. Let me make these connections. And I'm like, just kidding. And I have the same thing for bedtime. I have a bedtime routine on my phone until it kicks in.
Yeah.
But opposite of you, I have not used my self-discipline at all. I'm like, don't tell me how to live my life. And I hit pause. And then I just like keep being on my phone. And again, super vulnerable, but I need to like recalibrate there because it's a time suck. And honestly, it takes away from just like savoring simple pleasures, if you will, like watching a movie with my husband at the end of the night. Or I think it was last week or the week before, I like put my phone away and we played cards and just like rummy or whatever, super simple. But it just gave us like a time to chat that I would have missed out on if I was still sucked into my phone. And I think that for me personally, that's something that I need to like get better at because I used to never hardly be on apps. I have very set times when I check my emails, very set times when I check socials, very set times when I post. So that's another big one. But then also for slowing down and like a practical tip is savoring simple pleasures. Like take time to just slow down and fully appreciate the simple pleasures in life. And that could be enjoying a cup of tea in the morning or savoring a good meal with loved ones or watching a sunset or cultivating mindfulness, because that as business owners is going to, and don't do it just because of this, but that is going to give you space to find some innovation and some creativity. Because like, have you ever experienced this or had a friend who's like, oh my gosh, I thought of the best idea in the shower?
That's me.
Okay. And that to me, like, I love that. I'm a total shower girl and I take way too long. But what I'm finding is, and I think a lot of people can relate to this, there's nothing pulling our attention. Like maybe our children, but my daughter's old enough now that I'm like, mommy's taking a shower. Like, let me be. Or sometimes I'll give her my phone, which is probably equally as bad. But with that, it's that slowing down and giving ourselves space to just have thoughts, because I feel like we're so engaged. Like we're either interacting with our children or we're interacting with our clients or working on some project that we have to get out, or like for you working with numbers in the team and all these things, that by slowing down and just enjoying the cup of coffee or sitting on the porch after dark and watching fireflies, just let your brain have some space, that it's not getting stuff thrown into it at the same level.
My thing is definitely the shower, but also every morning I make my coffee and I sit on my porch, and like I got myself some new patio furniture so I could enjoy it even more, because I'm like, you know what? This is my thing. It's part of my routine. I'm going to make sure it's comfortable and enjoyable. So yeah, I do my coffee. I sit on the porch and I try to read a book. Sometimes I do a little bit of scrolling, but I'm trying to get back to like, again, like that's the whole reset thing. This morning, I left my phone on the charger. I didn't even unplug it until after I had sat on the porch and read for like 15 minutes. I was like, okay, I did my whole morning routine, did my coffee, left the phone on the charger until all of that was done. And it felt a lot better. Like just the way that it sets your day up is completely different. And yeah, I had all sorts of like ideas even after. A lot of times I'll get ideas while I'm reading, because like a word will like pop out at me and I'll be like, ooh, partly because like I write music. And so a lot of times like when I'm reading, I get song prompts basically from whatever I'm reading, whether it's the subject or even just like a phrase or a word. I'll be like, oh my gosh, I could totally write a song around this whole topic or use that line in a song. And so I even get ideas when I'm reading novels.
Hey, I love it. Wherever you find like your inspiration is important. And again, a lot of it probably stems from like slowing down and like consuming something that's like, you probably don't even know it, but like motivational, like something that you're just giving yourself space for. I love that. You know, it's funny too, because again, I just feel like we're on the same wavelength, because that would be my number 7, would be establishing rituals and routines. And you just spoke to yours. And it's, you know, as the listener, it might seem trivial to be like, well, I don't need a morning routine or a night routine, but something that sets that the pace of your day can be hugely impactful. You're going to start your day off on a better foot if you slow down and like you do, Serena, like read your book or sit and just enjoy your coffee and be in nature or whatever it is for the individual. Morning meditation practice or an evening wind down routine or some sort of self-care throughout the week. I think just having that consistency and almost sense of stability and grounding amidst like the busyness of life can really help you recenter, refocus, and just get in the right headspace to be intentional and kind of, if you will, like everything we've talked about up until this point on this episode, like those things are going to help sustain all of that in the best of ways.
Yeah. Yeah. I love routine. And a lot of that is just from being a mom, like we know that helps our children. So it's like, then you get to where you're like, oh, okay, actually the bedtime routine is also really good for me to do for myself as my nighttime ritual to wind down and like signal to the body that it's time to like slow down. And especially again, like as you and I are talking about being high achievers, like it's a really good tactic to turn off your brain and get yourself used to like having a nighttime routine. I do like my whole skincare routine and my brush my teeth and all that. And then I usually listen to like a guided meditation as I'm laying down to sleep. Otherwise, I can't turn my brain off.
Yeah, I think that's common for us high achievers. Like we're just constantly going. Like the other night, I woke up in the night and I couldn't fall back asleep. And I was like, Katy, please stop thinking. Please just stop. And then because I can't count sheep because I have to get to a certain number. And like, there's just certain things I can't do because I'm so, like, I do think that I would be like a good accountant or bookkeeper because I'm very analytical in my approach to things. But then there's certain like, there's just certain things I can't do. Like people are like, well, just think about this or think about that. And I'm like, okay, I'll think about 5 things and then I'll go to sleep. And I'm like, wait, no, I don't. That's not how this works. Like it's a whole thing. But for me too, another big one is like simplifying my environment. I didn't realize until later in life how like simplistic things help me, like not having like any clutter or excess belongings, because they really contribute to like a sense of overwhelm and busyness for me. And
me too.
Okay, good. Because I was like, hopefully this will make sense. But yeah, that's a big one for me. So like oftentimes I would find myself when, again, like you're a mom, so you get this, when I had like a time when I was at home and like my husband would take the baby or something, I would first like clean up the house and then it's not like he was gone for very long. So then I'd like lose out on time to do other things. And I couldn't figure out like what my problem was. And I started to realize that I needed to like declutter and simplify my physical environment by getting rid of just like unnecessary items or having a clean space or organized space so that I could have almost a sense of calm and clarity for myself. And that was like a really big one that made a big impact. And so like we talked about earlier with time management, we hired a house cleaner because number one, I'm a little bit of a germaphobe, not totally, but a little bit. So having my toddler like come around and try to clean the toilets with me just killed me inside. And we ended up having to like take a shower every time afterwards. And so it just made more work. So I decided, you know what? I can pay another small business to come and clean my home and do what they're good at. They can do it 10 times faster than I can. And I can use that time to put back on a certain week into my business or back into my kid or back into like gymnastics or whatever the case is. And if anyone's on the fence for that sort of thing, I am a huge believer in like the cost of doing business and setting aside, like thinking about all your numbers. And for me, as a photographer or as a VA, my hourly rate was, not to sound like humble brag, was far more than what the cleaner's charging me. So if I could just get an extra hour of work in or service an extra hour for a client, it paid for itself in abundance. And so for me, that was a big one. And so just simplifying my environment and having a clean space allows me to really focus on almost like the tranquility of it and then making it so much easier to slow down and focus on what matters versus feeling overwhelmed looking at my living space and not being able to kind of like separate my living space from the chaos in my mind, if that makes sense. So
yeah,
that's another big one.
Totally relate to that. I did the same thing. And that was one of the first, that was actually a threads that I answered today. Someone had posted a question like, I'm getting to a point where I'm like at capacity in my business. I don't know what to outsource first. And I like basically gave my advice. Like the first thing I outsourced when I only had like 5 clients was the more basic level tasks that I was doing every month for clients that I could easily teach to someone else and create a process around. And like I hired that out. And then the next thing was stuff in the home because that bought back my time. Then I was able to increase my capacity with work. And then it not only buys back time, but it buys your sense of peace and calm. And so you're more productive while you're working because you're not thinking about the dishes in the sink or your baseboards being dusty that you're looking at while you're in your office or whatever, you know? So it's totally worth it. Definitely highly recommend.
I love that. We're similar. Like I started investing in like a CRM platform and like automating and systemizing everything. And that was able to alleviate enough for me to start. And then honestly, one big mistake is I should have, I guess, hired help, if you will, like much earlier when it comes to the business because, you know, I'd been in it for over a decade and then I was like, okay, let's hire a team member. But even just the simplicity of like having a CRM platform to do all this in and utilizing templates and like workflows was beautiful. And then, yeah, at first I felt kind of bad as a mom for hiring like a house cleaner, but then I was like, why? I don't enjoy doing it and I'm not good at I do to some level actually enjoy cleaning because I do like having a clean space and like the accomplishment of it, but yeah. And then we got 2 dogs and so that just pushed me over the edge.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Once you introduce animals, yeah, definitely hire a cleaner.
It's just not
yeah,
worth
and
the
I'm the
fuss
same too. The other thing too is like my routine for cleaning when I'm the one that's cleaning, I don't clean the whole entire house top to bottom. I haven't been able to do that since before kids. So it's also like not ever rewarding because like it's one room at a time over the course of a week. And then by the time you finish the whole house, you're starting all over again.
Yeah. That's a totally valid point because I remember one time my mom grew up where like she had winter clothes and summer clothes. And I mean, she had 5 kids. And so it makes sense now that like you couldn't keep all the clothes in the closet at the same time, I guess. I don't know. And so I like kind of took that on when my daughter was born. And then as she got older, she'd like pull it out before I even finished folding half of it. And I was like, this is so obnoxious.
Yeah.
So quickly realized that's not worth it. Similarly to like cleaning, like you can't keep up, and I'm not the only one making the mess anymore, so it's a whole thing. But you just find what works. I mean, we also outsource grocery shopping. Like, I mean, we grocery shop, but it's delivered, so we're not going to the grocery store anymore, and it costs me $3.95 to have it delivered, and then I tip. So that is definitely worth the hour and a half it saves me, or however long. So you figure out what works for you in your chapter of life. And, you know, maybe I'll start cleaning my own house again when my child's older. Probably not, though. But I might start going back to the grocery store at some point. Who knows?
Yeah, I do both. I do have groceries delivered, but sometimes I like to go to the store and see the produce and pick it out myself. But like I know that if I'm in a pinch, like I'll just reorder the last grocery order we had so that there's food in the house if I'm too busy to go to the store, and it happens quickly. And yeah, that's a really good one too. I didn't used to have that luxury because I lived too far out of town.
I can't imagine. We're like basically in Washington, D.C., so we're totally in a city. But I've like had things delivered when we're like Airbnb or whatever, and I'm like, or tried to, and they're like, we don't deliver there. I'm like, what? What do you mean you can't deliver there? That's mind-boggling. Like, did I mistype the address? Like, I don't understand. I forget. Some people still don't have that, which is crazy.
Yeah, my heart goes out to you if that's you. Because I know what it's like. Okay, so yeah, this has been a really awesome conversation, and I hope that like since it's really late for you, I don't want to keep you any longer, but I hope that this conversation was valuable to anyone listening. If someone wants to connect with you, obviously they should connect with you on Threads, but if not Threads, where's the next best place?
Yes, this has been such a fun conversation. So Instagram is always a good place. I'm at Gingerbiz, Gingerbiz, or my website, which is www.katymurrayphotography.com. So Katy Murray Photography. Those are both great spots. Yeah. And of course, Threads, which is the same, Gingerbiz. It's definitely been a lot of fun chatting. I love talking with other high achievers because you just vibe, you just get it. You understand kind of that relentless pursuit of success and how important it is to slow down and really just enjoy the journey. So thank you so much for having me on and having this conversation. It's been fun.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'm going to plug your podcast one more time. So our listeners are on the podcast platform now. So you can just look up Ginger Biz, the podcast, and listen to Katy's podcast as well. Thank you so much for coming on here, Katy. I super appreciate it. I'm glad we connected. I'll see you on Threads.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you to everyone who helps make this podcast possible. Content and interviews are produced by me, Serena Shoup. Our intro and outro music is written and performed by my brother, Ian Gilliam. Editing is also by Ian using his awesome sound engineering skills along with Descript software. Hosting and publishing is by Buzzsprout. And you can check out the show notes for links to all of these amazing resources and resources mentioned in the episode.
Be ambitious.